Our topic here today is how to help your student get ahead this summer. Very important. You families have invested a lot of time and money and energy in getting your students to Vanderbilt, and we appreciate that. And the question is, what comes next, and how can we help you navigate that? Let me introduce you to the people on our panel. I am moderator, Cherrie Wilkerson. I'm the Assistant Dean for Young Professional Programs at the Owen School of Management, our business school here at Vanderbilt. I'm joined by three of our products of our education that I'm very proud of. Gavin Schoenwald. Gavin, say hi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Cherrie, for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this.
All right. Alex Lutz is an MSF student currently in the building studying. Alex, say hi.
Hi, everybody. So glad everyone could join tonight.
And Delaney Weimer is an undergrad and accelerator graduate, proud accelerator graduate of 2022. Say hi, Delaney.
Hi, everyone. My name is Delaney. I'm so excited to be here tonight.
A few logistics or mechanics of what we're doing here. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. We want to make sure all of your questions are answered by our fine panelists. So if you have a question, some of them we already have that you've submitted in advance. We'll cover those, but you can also click on the Q&A button on the bottom there and submit a question, and we'll have Heather Garcia, our marketing person, will conduct that Q&A session near the end. So looking forward to doing that. So, so much has changed, as you all know, with the college experience and the summer experiences. It used to be that students would just go out and have a nice summer, help at home, take care of themselves, get recharged and ready to go back to school. That has changed. Summers are now a time to get ready for what comes after college. It's a time to first explore what students want to do, what their interests are, what their majors are, what those majors will lead them to from a career point of view. And it's important to do that, get that exploration of career paths, etc., early as possible, and to start working on it right after high school, after freshman year, sophomore year, and so on. Because the recruiting process for these companies and opportunities that your student may want are competitive, and many of them start ridiculously early, to be honest. So you have to be ready. So encourage you to help your student explore some career paths, research it, talk to friends, look at on LinkedIn at people who are doing that job, go shadow people. We'll talk more about that, but getting some clarity about what their future looks like after college is really important during these summer months. I'll encourage you also to encourage them to network with alumni who've had their major or part of organizations here at Vanderbilt that they know about, and to ask them, what are you doing? What's your job? What do you find interesting about it? What do you do next? Where do you go from here? How do I get to where you are? You all have family connections of all different kinds. Use that to network and help them understand the value of it. Many young college students don't quite recognize how valuable it is. I'm sure our panelists can speak to that in just a moment. So what I'd like for our panelists to do is answer this question. Well, how did your summer opportunities that you've had so far clarify your career goals, and give us an example of an opportunity that led you to say, oh, now I know what direction I'd like to go in. So Alex, can we start with you?
Of course, Cherrie, thank you. I will say that it's really easy to get caught up in thinking that you have to know exactly what you want to do right now and find an internship or a role that fits exactly those needs. But it's also okay to explore. I had a summer internship at this really small startup, me and two people in this tiny little office. And that was one of the best experiences I've had, just firsthand being so involved in every little detail, because it was really holistic. And it wasn't just segmented. So I got to see exactly what it was like to write, a quarterly investor report. I got to see what it was like to go to the stores and look at the product on the shelves and see what that was like. I got to be involved in the marketing and the branding, the social media side of everything. And so I would say, don't get too caught up in thinking that you have to know exactly right now. It's okay to kind of figure it out. And I think it really drove me to, currently I'm in the MSF program and I'm pursuing a career in consulting. And I think that experience really allowed me to understand that I like working with clients and being client facing and being hands-on with projects. And so I'll just wrap it up there and I'll let one of our other panelists go, but thanks, Cherrie.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Gavin.
sorry. I just figured this would be a good time to pitch in because a lot of what I'm about to say bounces off what Alex spoke. So for me, and a lot of what Alex was saying as well is you're going to get asked, what do you want to do? You're going to get asked the question, what do you want to do so many times in your journey throughout undergrad and even into graduate school. And the answer is okay to say, I don't know. But for me, my internship experience was more so about what do I do not want to do more than what do I do want to do. And that's okay. So for example, if you have an internship that you're in the middle of and you find out, oh my gosh, this is miserable, I don't want to do this, that's a successful internship because you just can cross that off your list. And that's something that I spoke with Suzanne, who's our director here at MMark, when I was going through my interview process. And so I had an internship role with a company called TBH Financial, and that was all about finance and everything that Alex is doing right now. And after that internship, I realized, you know what, I'll let those people work with the numbers and I'll go to the marketing side. And after that, the next summer I did a marketing internship, and that's how I knew exactly where I belonged in corporate America. And so I think it's just really easy to get caught up in finding the perfect internship. And at the end of the summer, did I like it? Did I not? Whether the answer is you loved it or you hated it, it's still a success because you give yourself a direction in terms of your career.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry, Cherrie. And just to jump in there too, I am a sophomore, and so I really have not had that much internship experience under my belt so far. And I'm just gonna preface this by saying I really don't know what I still want to do. And I know we're gonna talk a lot about this later with the accelerator program, but one of the things that I really did learn throughout that program is that I really enjoy being part of a team and collaborating with other people. And something that I really learned was that while my strengths weren't necessarily in numbers, I really thrived in opportunities where I was talking to other people and collaborating and doing more of the problem solving and creative components. And so while I don't really know where that's going to exactly lead me in business, and that's kind of what next summer is for and a couple future summers, I do think that, like the two other panelists were saying, is that just dipping your toes in the water a little bit and trying not to get caught up into how overwhelming it can be is the key to trying to think about what you like and what you don't like and just exploring in general.
Thank you. Shall we go ahead? So two things we want to talk about this summer is explore, come up with ideas, see what works and what doesn't work. As Gavin said, if you have a failure, that's success. We won't do that again. But the next is to gain some experience. And this is really to set yourself up, get your students set up to have something on their resume that has some real world benefits that they can explain to their employers as they're interviewing for that next internship and for that full-time job or graduate school down the road. What all three of those are looking for is a pattern, a story that comes out of your resume, out of your student's resume of, this is my major, I implemented it and used what I learned in that major in this particular internship. I accomplished these things. Then my next internship, I accomplished these other things. And it just reads like a story, chapter by chapter. So when you finally get to the end, whether it's the end of college or the end of grad school, and you're talking to employers, they know what your student's interested in. So your students demonstrated it by having success in these particular areas, and it sets that your student up for success with the employer. They want to know that you can walk in on day one and start contributing in some way. It would be lovely to think that all you have to do is get a great GPA and travel during the summers and you'll get a great job. You may get one, but that's not the odds-on favorites to do that. So having that experience, and not just any experience, it needs to lead to something, either from your exploration point of view or something for your resume that has sustenance for your future career. So there's various ways to get those things. And first of all is summer internships. The younger your student, the more difficult it tends to be to land an internship, certainly a paid internship. And if your family can afford it, please cast the net wide for not just paid internships, but also unpaid. I know that's not always possible. But the experience is the thing, not how much money. People who are looking at that later aren't going to worry about whether it was paid or unpaid. They're going to worry about the experience you had. So finding those internships is important. You can also, if those aren't an option or your student wants to do something different, there are several summer immersion programs. There's one near and dear to Delaney and I that we'll talk about in a moment that essentially serves the function of 3 internships. We'll say more about that. But there are other summer immersion programs out there where students travel and study and have work experiences abroad, or there's a lot of things that your student can take and put on their resume, use it to tell their story to get ultimately where they want to go in life. So I'm going to ask our panelists here what tools or resources or methods they used that they found helpful in finding these opportunities, because there's not a clear roadmap. It's every student has to kind of figure it out on their own. So let's start with you first, Delaney, for the experiences you've had. How'd you find out about Accelerator? How'd you find out about the things you did the rest of that summer?
Sure. So just to talk a little bit about my experience to finding Accelerator, there were a lot of events on campus last year when I was a freshman, and just posters spread about. And one day when I was walking to class, I remember it caught my eye, and I looked into it a little bit more, and I decided to apply over winter break. And I will say, I will probably plug the Accelerator so many times throughout this webinar, but I think one of the most valuable tools that I've gotten from specifically the Accelerator was just the mentors I've gained from the entire experience as a whole. And they've been really valuable resources for just talking about my career interests and gaining different internship suggestions, and also evaluating some of my strengths and weaknesses, and extending a little bit beyond Accelerator too. I know Vanderbilt has Handshake for undergraduate students. I'm not exactly sure for graduate students. And that's a really good resource to find information about different career fairs going on, as well as different recruiting events. And you can even apply for internship events through that. So I will say that between the Accelerator as well as Handshake, and also helping to refine my LinkedIn a little bit, those were have been really, really helpful in me progressing past the Accelerator as well, into finding different opportunities for the upcoming years.
Alex, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, thanks, Cherrie. I think Delaney made a lot of good points. I will say the platform we use here at Owen for graduate students is called 1220. So the combination of Handshake and 1220, those are great resources to use. As well as Cherrie was mentioning earlier, that just networking, even with friends, family, people you find on LinkedIn. I think our alumni network is really receptive. If you just reach out, shoot them a message, they're 9 times out of 10 going to respond. And I think that that's really helpful, even in just, hey, I have a quick question, or I'm wondering if you guys hire summer interns. And I will say I'm noticing more and more that larger firms have these sort of summer immersion programs where it's not necessarily an internship, but let's say it's like a 3-week leadership program where you can gain skills, things that might be useful later in your career, or even, in your internships for the next summer. And that's also a great thing to have on your resume, because it's really easy to point to, this big firm, and they probably have like, very specific program to follow. So I will say that those things are really helpful, as well as the accelerated program like Delaney was mentioning. And yeah, there's a lot of great resources here, but I think those are the big ones. I'll pass it off to Gavin.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I think what's really cool about this stage of your students' lives is they can kind of make their internship experience absolutely whatever they want it to be. So my brother, when my brother was in school, he went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He did 2 internships over 2 summers, one in London and one in New York City. And his brother, who went to Vanderbilt here in Nashville, both of his internship experiences were within a 10-mile radius of campus. And so your internship experience can be whatever you want it to be. I think Alex was saying earlier as well how she's kind of worked for a smaller firm that was way more hands-on, and she was able to do a lot of things that maybe you wouldn't be able to do if you were a part of an internship program with a company that every single person on the planet knows the name to. And so it's absolutely whatever you want it to look like. If you want to try a little bit of both, if you want to do neither, if you want to do 2 small firms, 2 big firms, whatever it is. And the best way to find that, really, and I kind of hate that I'm saying this to you guys because everybody says this, but it's networking. It is. And I wish there was a secret and an accelerator to networking, but it truly is just reaching out, and people are so receptive. People are so receptive to your feedback. I can't tell you how many times, trust me, I've been in your students' shoes where I've been nervous to reach out to somebody, and after I've gotten to know them, I'm like, well, I don't even know why I was nervous in the first place. And so I would really encourage your students, especially as we get closer to the end of school in May or June or whatever that is for your student. When that date gets closer, encourage them to reach out to people who work at their dream job or their dream company or whatever it may be. I think it'd be highly likely that person responds.
If I could just jump in, Cherrie, really quick, I will say that, Gavin, I love that sentiment. But you can't build a network in a day. So even starting now, reaching out to those people, because building on those relationships is really crucial. And the more rapport you have with someone, the more likely they are to reach out to you. Your name comes to mind when they're hiring. So I would say even start now, get that LinkedIn profile really buffed and ready. Because it takes some time, but back to you.
Your student has they're in a wonderful position. They pick up the phone, send an email. Hi, I'm a student at Vanderbilt. And everyone remembers when they were students and how they appreciate the help they got. And so many, many doors open that won't open when you say, hi, I work at ABC company. But student at Vanderbilt, that opens doors. I would encourage your students to go to the Career Center, use their online resources, get their resume in a standard format where they can easily pass it along in networking conversations. A lot of students get stymied on what do I talk to them about because I don't know that person. Well, you contact them. I'm a student at Vanderbilt. I'm interested in exploring careers in in whatever. And I'd love to talk to you about your experience and what you think a Vanderbilt student can bring to that kind of work. You don't call, of course, and say, gee, I need a job for the summer. What you got? Doesn't work as well. but there's lots of resources out there, and we can help. You can help to get them comfortable. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get, the more connections you have, and the more successful you will be in getting what you want to out of that experience. Other things to add, team? Anecdotes about, how about anecdotes about a successful connection to get your internship?
Oh yeah, I got one. So I mentioned earlier my experience, my first internship was with a financial planning company, and it made me realize that that's not what I want to do. And how I got connected with my second internship was with a company called Advent, which is a design build firm here in Nashville. They do a bunch of renovations for collegiate and professional sports teams, as well as like collegiate business halls, such as we have here at Owen. While I was there, we worked on University of Southern California's new engineering building, and University of North Dakota's new business hall. But anyway, back to my point is, I had no idea about this and didn't get connected with anybody, and was just scrambling for an internship, honestly, which I'm sure maybe some of your students have felt before in the past. And I connected with a family friend of ours who's a similar age as me, and she said that she was reached out to by this person who used to work at our high school, in like the communications department, who now is the president of marketing at this company. And although she couldn't take it, I reached out to the lady, and she was more than happy to have me in. I went in for one interview. The next day I got the internship. And so it can seem like today you have like nothing going for you, or you have no idea where you're going. And then just that next connection is going to lead you to the internship that they're going to give you by Friday. So it's a little bit crazy how all that works. And you forget that these companies, they want young blood, young minds in the halls of their organizations. And so I would just say be fearless, because you really do have nothing to lose, and at this stage of our life, everything to gain.
And just jumping off of what Gavin said too, I kind of had a similar experience through Accelerator. One of the professors and the mentors from Accelerator owns a local startup in Nashville, and I have stayed in really close touch with her, and I was expressing my interest a little bit in her combination of psychology and business. And she was like, a couple of months ago, she was like, well, I actually do have an internship position if this is something you'd be interested in for this semester. And I think I personally did not go up to her and say, hey, I really want to work for you, but I just, by the matter of being curious in what those important people are interested in, and just keeping a really open mind to different opportunities and just saying yes and exploring, I think that's so valuable, especially within the next few years as you're trying to figure out what you're doing and trying to develop those important relationships.
Any other comments before our next slide, people? All right, let it roll. There we are. Let's talk about Delaney and I've been dying to talk about this. I'm the program director for Accelerator too. So, the reason we're showing it to you all tonight is it's really 3 internships in one. And we very consciously and carefully work on career preparation with career coaching from our staff here at Owen. We have a very strong staff. We devote the resources and the time to career coaching here at Owen. So we also offer networking opportunities with the Nashville community, leadership development through 360-degree feedback instruments. Remember that, Delaney? That was fun and very enlightening, I know.
Yes, I do remember. It was super helpful.
And then we also teach. We teach the business fundamentals, a core business curriculum during Accelerator by our faculty members here at Owen. And any major is ready for it. We're good. The internship that aspect is from the 3 consulting projects we do for companies. This year, we're going to work with Dollar General. We also worked with them last year, and the Nashville Super Speedway. Their challenge to the students, we'll have teams of students. Their challenge is, how do you take a sport popular with 60 to 65-year-old men and make it appealing to a much younger demographic? And so that's going to be a challenge. When I go to classes, talk about Accelerator, I tell them we're going to work for the Nashville Super Speedway, NASCAR. How many of you are NASCAR fans? Nobody raises their hands. Well, there's the challenge. You're going to help make it so. So the companies come back in and give a report of, they look at the presentations, ask questions, and they decide which of the student teams answered their challenge the best. And so they win. There's a winner, like in business, there is a winner there. Delaney, I'm going to pick on you and ask, what were your main takeaways from the program?
I have a lot of main takeaways, so I'm gonna walk you through a few. But one of the most beneficial things I think I gained from the program, or just to preface this, is I actually came in freshman year as a pre-med student. And so after first semester, I was a little bit confused. I dropped pre-med, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And so I came in really open-minded to the accelerator program, knowing absolutely nothing about business. And I left with really widespread exposure to negotiations, marketing, finance, public speaking, and so many other areas throughout the morning classes, as well as through each project. And while they are technically 3 consulting projects, they expose you to so many components of business that are just so diverse. And just to name a few, through the accelerator, when I did it, we worked with a Nashville startup called Daily Crunch. We worked with Dollar General, which is like the discount retailer, and then Nissan. And so were all extremely diverse experiences, and each project within them was so important, and I learned so much from them. But even just looking back, as I've been interviewing for different internships for this upcoming summer, just having some real world, like, professional experiences to talk about in interviews, and talking about being on a team and problem solving and leadership, as well as what worked, what didn't work. And one of the biggest questions too is, like, when have you realized you've made a mistake, or when have you failed? And just being able to have opportunities where I've had so much growth and things to talk about with learning experiences has been so valuable. And just one last big takeaway too is I've gained a lot of really valuable mentors from the accelerator program, who started off as just guiding me through the classes and projects, but now have turned into some really important people in my life. Just to name one of them, Professor Slatton. I met him through the accelerator program, through some of the classes, and I actually meet with him, I think, maybe every 2 to 3 weeks, and we get coffee and we catch up. And he is someone who I always go to for career advice and just guidance, and just as kind of a friend and mentor. And Dr. Ludden has also been a really valuable resource for me. Not only has she offered me an opportunity to work with her startup this semester, but she also just is there whenever I need to have like a 5-minute Zoom call or conversation about something I've been thinking about. And I think it's just really nice to know that the support from the program extends so much further beyond the 3 weeks. And just even just getting to know Cherrie throughout this entire process and hearing her support, and just staying in touch has just been so amazing. And I truly don't know, looking back, where I would be right now if it weren't for the relationships that I met through the program and just the experiences that I've had.
Thank you, Delaney. Let me ask you, Alex and Gavin, you all had your internships, you graduated from school, but you chose to come back to Vanderbilt, or to stay at Vanderbilt, to pursue a master's degree in an effort to get to your next career move. Can you talk a little about that, why you chose to get a master's as opposed to going right out into the workforce?
Yeah, I can start. I think that for me, a lot of it had to do with not being satisfied with my education, just because COVID was so disruptive right in the middle of my undergrad experience. And I'm someone who, like, I genuinely want to add value to whatever firm I end up at. And I just felt that given all the disruption, it was a little hard to sort of absorb all the knowledge from my classes on Zoom. And so I thought it best to come back to school. And it was a little bit of a no-brainer because Vanderbilt makes it so enticing. You know, it's kind of like 1 year, no strings attached, move to Nashville. And there's so many resources here as well. And I've also just really appreciated the knowledge I've gained here, because although I had already gotten my bachelor's in science of business administration in finance and accounting, and now I'm getting my master's in finance, it is such a higher level. And I feel just that much more prepared to take on recruiting and any job that, you know, I might be offered, hopefully, in the future. And so, yeah, Gavin?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of similar points to you, Alex. So for me, I went to Vanderbilt undergrad, and as great as my experience was, and it was great, I just felt like there was a higher level that I wanted to reach with my my education and especially expertise when it comes to marketing and really when I was making this decision, it was about this time last year, and I was asking myself, I can either go out into the workforce and, start at step one, just like everybody else does. And eventually you get to, step 2, 3, 4, all the way on to whatever. And instead, I truly feel like once I'm done with my Master of Marketing here and I go and show up for day one of my job, whenever and wherever that is, I'm already on step 7. That may have taken me, 2, 3, 4 years of job experience to get. And so my decision to come back to Vanderbilt was with the end in mind and to try to get a head start, really on some of my peers in my career. And so, yeah, really very, very, very happy with my decision. I've had an unbelievable experience so far at Owen. It's sensational, and I'd love to talk further with any of you families that are interested in joining the Owen community, especially MMark for finance. Maybe you can talk with Alex, but yeah, more than happy to speak further. I'm not sure if our contact information or anything is being shared, or our emails or whatever it is, but more than happy to give you guys some more information if you're interested.
So you see, families, we have a plan for you. We're presenting it right here for you. So while your student is an undergrad, come to Accelerator, whether that's sophomore summer, freshman summer, sophomore summer, junior summer, or even graduates came to our program last year to get ready for the job and to really speed up your career and stay focused and get yourself sharp. Stay with us for a 1-year master's. We also have Masters of Accounting in addition to our Masters of Finance and Masters of Marketing. So we got you covered here at Vanderbilt, and you parents and families know how much you love coming to Nashville. So come on with us. Come to Accelerator. We'll take you to a NASCAR race at the end of the month. If that's not worth doing Accelerator, I don't know what is. So next slide. Questions. We have our very capable Heather Garcia from our marketing department who's going to facilitate the Q&A session of this. And Heather, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Cherrie. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening, and especially our panelists. You've shared so many wonderful tidbits and insight that was really interesting even for me to listen to, and I don't even have a college student. So thank you again for your time. For those of you that may have joined late, we are recording the webinar, and you will be receiving an email with the link that you can actually share with your student. And And I encourage you, if you haven't already, to go ahead and submit a question using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but if we don't get to your question, we will be following up with you individually and sending an email. So no worries there. We'll try to get back to everyone, answer their questions, and point you in the right direction. Before we get started with our Q&A though, I would like to point out our QR code here on the screen, and I really encourage you to go ahead and scan that now. That way you can actually go to our website and see more about the programs that we've talked about, but also there's a form that you can fill out with your students' information and actually download our specialized master's playbook, which is a really helpful resource guide and will help your student really, I think, figure out a career path and help them with that process. So be sure to scan that code before we end our presentation. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started with our questions. And the first one I thought was really great, and probably a lot of parents are thinking this, but how does a parent, family member really support their student in looking for a summer job or internship? And, you know, especially if their student doesn't have a career path. And I think, Delaney, you're going through that process right now, it sounds like. So please, anyone go ahead and jump in and just share, you know, what is the best way parents can support their student?
I think that's a very personal question, because I think every student functions differently, and every same dynamics with family. But I think what's been most helpful for my parents is just not necessarily putting too much pressure on the process, because it can be really overwhelming, especially at a school like Vanderbilt. We're so lucky to be here and have so many resources at our hands, but at the same time, having so many different options and choices can be really overwhelming at the same time. And so I think what's been most helpful for my parents is being there for when I need to talk about it and when I am trying to run something by them. But I don't know. I think that's a really good question. I mean, I feel so grateful that my parents were supportive of me coming to the accelerator program. And I think that going through that was one of the most formative experiences I've had in terms of career development so far. But I will definitely say, at least for me, I think limiting the pressure and realizing that some people might take a little bit longer for them to figure out what they want to do, or some people know exactly what they want to do. It's just very dependent on the student.
Cherrie, do you have any? Oh, okay, go ahead.
I can hop in here too. I think you know, each it's kind of hard to remember sometimes that this is, you know, your child or your student's journey. And I think that you know, the best thing that my parents did for me is whenever I came to them and asked about an industry, about a company, or about even a specific job, they did everything in the power they could to help me. Whether it was, you know, somebody that my parents knew, a family friend who they knew had a good job and maybe a cool internship program. And so I think the best thing that you can do to as parents is to understand that this is their journey, and it is their decisions at the end of the day, but they'll only go as far as you guys can help them.
Very good, thank you. Anything else to add, Cherrie? Or
you know, as parents and caregivers, we have subtle ways of getting information from our children, right? So having conversations about, well, that's an interesting job. Did you see this in the paper the other day? This person does such and such and such. I wonder how they got into that position. And just bringing up some ideas to start to think about careers, or how do you get from here to there? Sharing interesting podcasts you might have been listening to. You know, I remember my father had to fill out a report about me to come to Vanderbilt many years ago. And I remember reading it and saying, wow, I think he knows me better than I know myself. So some helpful encouragement in the right places, helping your student get the confidence to make those networking calls, trying to just grease the skids to make it easier for them to find out what they're doing. I agree with Delaney, though, too much pressure. And at some point they'll say, this is my parents' life, it's not mine. And that's no good. Don't do that. Alex, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, kind of off of your and Delaney's point, I think that support and maybe front loading on the research portion and maybe presenting information. And as a parent, I think it's really easy to say, this is the best option for you. But kind of allowing them to get there themselves, because, you can kind of steer them all you want, but they are their own person and they will find what's right for them. And at the end of the day, don't we all just want our kids to be happy? And so I think that allowing them room to grow and really come into their own, and not needing this process to be perfect, because every single one of us has had a different path here and there's no sort of cookie cutter answer, and sort of allowing that flexibility and not getting too caught up with, what exactly it looks like.
Let me add one more piece of this. At Accelerator, we are mentors to, and it also in our programs, I work with Alex and Gavin, we are mentors to the students. So we can say things that parents can't, that caregivers can't. And we can be very upfront about that. One of my best friends invited me over to talk to her daughter. I knew what she wanted me to tell her, but I could, and I agreed with it. I could say things that to her daughter that she could not. And, because that's how it is. So asking, people, friends, colleagues, confidants, to talk to my child, see what see if you can explore what they might be interested in, give them a little help. They have many more degrees of freedom than you have with your child.
Great, thank you. We had so many questions about internships and where to look, how to get started. We're talking about VU undergrads right now. So we did touch on a few things throughout the presentation, but let's just do a quick recap of where students can actually look, no matter their major.
I can jump in on that one since it's sort of what I've been going through for the past couple months. So in addition to the resources from Accelerator, I think the Career Center is a really helpful resource. They have drop-in hours for helping with resumes as well as cover letters. And they also have tons of coaches as well there that I have gone to, and they've been really helpful in helping me try to figure out what I want to do. And it's just an extra person to talk to, like we were saying earlier, and just an extra resource. There's also Handshake, which I mentioned briefly, but it tells you about all the different career fairs going on at Vandy and some of the different on-campus events. A lot of different undergraduate clubs also have guest speakers coming in, or will have recruiters coming in. So it can be helpful to maybe suggest to your student to kind of stay in the know with the different business organizations on campus, and just kind of keep your eyes open for that. And I also think that LinkedIn has been extremely helpful. I know that at the Career Center and through Accelerator, I have had my LinkedIn worked through and critiqued, and it's been really helpful to improve upon that and figure out the best way to describe my experiences. And they've also, through Accelerator and the Career Center, have shown me how to search for internships by city, by employer, and by types of jobs. And I think those are all really important things that can be an immediate resource as you're trying to figure out what to do. But I will say, lastly, though, feeling comfortable to go up to your professors when something sounds interesting to you, or when you hear from a guest speaker, feeling comfortable to send a message on LinkedIn or an email, or just following up, probably has been the most valuable and useful thing that I've done so far. And so just kind of gaining the confidence to do so and being very curious and open-minded is, I think, one of the most useful tips I could offer for helping everyone find an internship.
Yeah, Alex, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna add, I know we're running out of time, but in regards to speaking with recruiters who come to campus and reaching out on LinkedIn, just a helpful tip is be detail oriented, because it's easy to copy and paste, a LinkedIn message and forget to change the name, or, put the wrong company title in a cover letter. So just make sure that you're double and triple checking that, because you would not believe how many times those little details can really bite you in the end. So just that's a really important thing to keep in mind when you're doing this. It's easy to just, copy paste, send, but just make sure that you're double checking that, because it is important.
All right, it looks like we are about out of time. I want to be respectful of everyone this evening, and we greatly appreciate everyone for joining us tonight. It was a wonderful webinar. I hope you all enjoyed it. And just as a reminder, we are going to be sending a link to the webinar, so you'll have that to go back to and reference, but also share with your student. But we hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and thank you again.